Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to take a look at some overlooked JRPGs. We're gonna find out why they were overlooked and if they're any good. So let's begin! Number 10. AI Limit. This is a Souls-like action RPG. Me covering a Souls-like when I don't even like that genre, I know. Except this is heavily inspired by Code Vein, which I loved. So it's a Chinese game, not Japanese, and it's technically an indie. So the world has gone to hell and everything is in ruins. Your girl Arisa here is a blader, androids built for spoiler reasons. No, it's not that kind of spoiler. So she has to find who she really is and possibly find out why the artificial ecosystem of the world collapsed. There's not much story here, but there is a way stronger plot than in most Souls games. Fan service is included, but wearing barely anything also means your stats decrease considerably. As you explore around, you will find more armor though, or items, or mod balls. The latter are basically your very scarce healing items, although you also have 3 recovery potions to full health. If you die, and obviously you'll die a lot, you'll respawn at the last small campfire with thankfully your experience intact. To upgrade equipment or moves, you need points that you get when you level up, obviously doing that by defeating enemies. Now, controls and combat are exactly like in a game of this kind, so there's no need for me to explain them. It isn't as refined as the AAA Souls games or even Code Vein, of course, but for a small budget game, they're acceptable. Problem is, the game's ridiculously hard, as you may have imagined. I beat Code Vein many years ago and this is way harder, let me tell you that. But I guess the girl and the narrative are what compel you to keep trying until you get good. Either that, or it'll be a ginormous grind fest, of course. Not much to say about the music since it's almost non-existent, but it's atmospheric and it fits the game. The graphics are great and blend in really well with the post-apocalyptic wasteland. I mean, it's supposed to look depressing, dark and gritty, so they did a good job with it. It almost has a horror game feel, you know? Overall, it's a solid action RPG that was overlooked probably because there's just too many Souls-like nowadays, but also because another game of that kind came out around the same time, the first Berserker Kazan, which crushed this one. Anyways, AI Limit is only on PS5 and Steam at the moment. There's a demo on both platforms if you want to check it out. Number 9. Suikoden Tactics. This spin-off is, well, not exactly one, as it acts as a companion to Suikoden 4, both games taking place around the same time. It's okay to start with either, since both are the prequels to the entire series, except of course that this is a grid-based tactical JRPG. It's on PS2 and digital on PS3. The story revolves around a group of characters investigating the rune cannons. Upon seeing that they're nothing but danger, they set out to destroy them. You can expect a great story here, almost on the same level as in any other Suikoden game. Decent music and decent graphics too, considering it wasn't a main title. Anyways, the gameplay is simple, as in you'll visit several towns, but in a menu-based system to use the stores, talk to NPCs. While the game doesn't have 108 characters to recruit, it does have a bunch and the ending changes a little bit if you don't get them all. So after town interaction and some scenes, you'll get into battles. Moving, attacking, healing, using items, everything is your classic average tactics game. However, the runes take a major role within the maps here. Characters can alter a portion of the terrain by changing its element in the form of squares or grids then. Obviously, characters have their own elemental strengths and weaknesses, so by standing on one of these grids imbued with a rune that favors them, their stats will be boosted, and therefore, the enemy can do the same. And if anybody stands on a grid rune they're weak against, well, you know what happens. Which is the reason why this game is a bit more challenging than all of the others. If you like Suikoden and tactical JRPGs, you have no excuse to overlook this cool game. Number 8. Saga Scarlet Grace. I'm surprised that this title is still incredibly overlooked nowadays, considering the popularity of the franchise. All these damn remasters and new games should make people more interested in previous titles, no? Well, this one was originally released on the PS Vita only in Japan in 2016. But 3 years later, its remaster was localized worldwide for Switch, PS4, PC and phones. A huge empire is no more nowadays, but there's a legendary powerful creature in the middle of it all trying to destroy what's left, so it's your job to investigate what's really going on. You can choose between 4 main characters, each with their own initial allies, story, narrative and background, but they will all start almost immediately exploring this beautiful looking world with 2D art, with very folkloric visuals. Just keep in mind it's a Saga game, alright? That means it's kinda open world, and without a guide, you'll eventually get stuck without knowing what to do or where to go. Of course, you can recruit different allies out there under certain circumstances to join your party, like in most Saga games. Depending on where you explore first, including towns or ruins, characters and events will vary thanks to its non-linear gameplay. Battles are triggered on the map itself or by investigating some locations. These are turn-based. 5 allies can be controlled, but they're all bound by an action points bar. That's right, one of those where you can spend all points with one character or various if you want to. As you battle on, more points can be added or reduced since they're utilized to execute any action, but every character's skill uses battle points, and some of them can alter the turn order, slightly similar to the Grandia battle system, where you can push back an enemy's turn or cancel it. And as with any Saga game, you don't level up, you just get random stat increases for random characters after every battle. So yeah, you guessed it, the game's very difficult. Enjoy the grindfest, guys! Number 7. Klonoa Heroes. This game never left Japan, if you can believe that. I know the Klonoa platformers aren't that popular, but they're well known, so why was this little spin-off never localized? Probably because the Klonoa series was seen as a failure many years ago. Well, this action RPG came out in 2002 for the Game Boy Advance by the same developer. You play as 3 characters, Klonoa himself included, in a top-down view perspective. They explore several areas with different enemies. Every character can equip various types of weapons and accessories which can be upgraded with points you get when you level up. You can also take with you healing items, which are extremely useful as this is a challenging game. The challenge comes from having 2 types of enemies, all of them weak to only one color, red or blue. Basically, you use the A button to attack with one color and B for the other. And there are even enemies that have invisible shields only destroyable by a special attack, one that requires a bar to fill up first before it's used. Controls are fine and the combat feels nice. You don't have to kill all enemies though, just some that may be holding the key to unlock the door to the next area, or you can also find the same key laying around certain places. Most places though don't have a boss fight, but some do and they're usually very challenging. The graphics are gorgeous pixel art and the music is quite catchy. Whoever was in charge of that did a great job. In the world map, you'll move with icons and enter menu-based towns to talk to NPCs, buy items, or use an inn to rest and save. It's a pretty simple game, nothing extraordinary, a charming adventure for fans of Klonoa. Number 6. Izuna, the Unemployed Ninja returns. Yes, this is a direct sequel to the original Izuna, also on the Nintendo DS. Indispensable to play it first before this one. So her adventure continues as she and her companions attend the wedding of one of the NPCs they met in the first game. Soon after, they find out Shino's little sister has returned looking for her. So Izuna and company start a quest trying to find her instead. It's once again a comedy, but it now has some voiced lines in Japanese for the dialogue, more story, but never overwhelming, so don't worry. Gameplay is identical to the first game, as in it's also a roguelike with randomly generated dungeons with several floors. You move when the enemy moves, you find items and weapons around, you know the drill. However, you now have a world map and will visit different towns and ruins, so in a sense, it feels more of a traditional JRPG than its predecessor. In towns you have the same as before though, NPCs to talk to, a blacksmith to repair your broken, damaged or overused weapons, the talismans guy, the regular items shop, and of course, most importantly, the storehouse, the place where you can store all the items and money you get after escaping a dungeon or completing it. Because once again, if you die, you lose everything and go back to town, but thankfully retaining your level and experience. Yet another new feature is that now you have party members. They don't fight alongside you, but rather you can take two characters to a dungeon and switch between them at any time. There's a penalty though, some bar needs to fill up with time before you can switch. The big issue of this, however, is that every character that joins you is level 1. That means you'll have to grind them if you want them to catch up to Izuna, cause you'll beat the first dungeon with her alone. The game is also harder than the first one, probably to force the player to grind some of these characters and increase the playtime. But overall, it's still a great game, as addicting as the first one, and very recommended if you like hardcore roguelike RPGs, or hell, even if you don't. Number 5, Magna Carta 2. Yup, that obscure Korean RPG on the PS2 has a sequel. Strangely, this one is exclusive to the 360. Don't ask me why. You don't need to play the previous games to understand this one, it's standalone. Civil war has broken in the kingdom of Landsheim, the north versus the south. The southern army is led by Princess Sephi. Eventually she meets Yuto, the protagonist of the game, an amnesiac fighter looking for his lost sister. The plot goes on from there until, you guessed it, Yuto joins Sephi's army. So anyway, it's a good story with interesting development and memorable characters. Beautiful, gorgeous visuals here, some of the prettiest I've seen on the console to be honest, and the fan service is notorious to say the least. Music is alright, some themes stand out, but the rest is forgettable. Unlike its predecessor, this is sort of like an action RPG. Traditional as in you'll visit towns but mainly traverse the capital and base of operations, but outside in the overworld you'll see the enemies around, including inside the areas or dungeons. To explore anywhere though, there are two modes: movement mode, which is self-explanatory, and combat mode. Once in the latter, your characters will move slowly towards the enemies to attack in a semi-turn-based combat. You only control 3 of them, but you can switch to standby allies later on. So everyone's got their regular attacks and special moves that use Con, which is like an MP system. Everyone's got an overdrive gauge, and as the battle progresses, once it fills up, the character stats will be buffed for massive damage. On the other hand, once it's over, the character will be unable to attack for a short period of time, leaving you vulnerable. But just before they enter this vulnerable overheat state, you can immediately switch to another character, a process called chain drive, forcing them to overdrive as well temporarily. Sounds cool, but trust me, it's often hard to achieve. This game is quite brutal and won't hold your hand for nothing. If you get into it though, I believe you'll get yourself a pretty damn solid hybrid RPG. Number 4, Ark Tonelico, Melody of Olympia. The first game in a short-running series that isn't exactly active anymore. The later entries were more obscure and eventually the franchise just died. This one is a PS2 exclusive with no ports anywhere as of the making of this video. Probably because they may be too incorrect for the pathetic companies that used to localize them back then in America and Europe. Sadly, they hold the rights. It's a sci-fi RPG developed by Ghost, where people live in towers in the middle of the sky. Girls, known as Ravatails, are a manufactured race created to maintain Ark Tonelico, the main tower where the game takes place. But some virus is now attacking the very same system they protect, so Liner here, one of the Knights of Olympia, is sent to destroy it. He fails, however, falls from the tower and ends up in the lower segments where he meets the Ravatail Erick. The story goes on from there. It's a plot rich with super interesting lore and different events that compel excellent world building. Still, the gameplay is traditional with various towns to explore, but no overworld other than the tower and the different artificial areas your characters explore. Lots of steampunk too in this game, by the way. Battles are limited random encounters per area and played on turns. Up to 3 main attackers can be set with regular skills and actions, but their job is to protect the Ravatail, a girl that will stand on the back casting powerful magic until several turns later it's ready to be used. Also featured is a bonding system for Liner with the Ravatails, all in order to decide your waifu at the end. To bond, you connect Liner's consciousness with one of the girls and enter their minds, known as the Cosmospheres. You'll go making decisions that use points in interactive but short visual novel segments. This is also used to create different song magic for the girls to be used in battle. Lots of fan service here and sexy innuendos, which is why it isn't suitable for a remaster nowadays, see? It's offensive. Great graphics, beautiful pixel art, and excellent soundtrack. Definitely recommended. Number 3. Fire Emblem New Mystery of the Emblem. Most people are unfamiliar with this game unless they're Fire Emblem diehards like me. The reason is because it never left Japan, even though it's a full remake of Fire Emblem 3 and a direct sequel to Fire Emblem 1, whose remake on DS we did get. A commercial failure, sadly, which is why Nintendo never bothered localizing this one. But yeah, Shadow Dragon is required to play first in order to understand this. Same gameplay, same graphics, same type of music, same battle system, same story. A customizable male or female protagonist can be chosen to join Marth in a new quest after the events of the first game. Some darkness is cooking within as another war breaks out. A lot of new characters here, of course, but most of the cast from the original game come back. Once again, you'll traverse through different maps, usually with a boss guarding a fort or a castle that you'll need to defeat. And once again, the triangle system for weapons returns with breakable weapons after several uses. You've got your different classes back, especially for your main character, that later evolve with a Master Seal after reaching level 10. All in all, this is a classic Fire Emblem at its best. But I do believe this one is much better than its predecessor. 2 reasons why. First, because the first one focuses on Marth and some NPCs alone, whereas this one has stronger development for more characters involved with the plot. The second reason is because the maps feel better designed and the difficulty feels more fair, but also more challenging. It's just overall a more engaging video game. This is an absolute must play if you like Fire Emblem when the series was still great. Number 2. Princess Crown. This is a 2D action RPG directed by George Kamitani back in 1997. This Sega Saturn version is the only one with an English fan translation so far. Its enhanced port on PSP and its digital re-release on PS4 never left Japan. Kamitani and Atlus have said in the past that its localization will be problematic because of stupid Sony's pathetic policy guidelines, but also because the game simply didn't age well. We'll see about that. You play only as Princess Gradriel, who's recently crowned as the new Queen of Valendia. However, she feels she's too inexperienced for the throne, so upon hearing the entire queendom has a crap ton of issues, she decides to sneak out of the castle to start a new quest of her own, helping people with this fairy accompanying her. It's a good written story and the translation is great for the most part. There's a whole controversy regarding this translation, but that'll take up too much time of this segment, so that's a story for another video. Now, don't think this is a quest-driven RPG just because it sounds like one. You do travel from town to town with small areas in between connecting them, but in reality it's like Dragon Quest, as in the story is still linear, focusing on Gradriel's character development and adventure, but one quest will lead you to another and so on. Quests are part of the main story, as in you enter a new town and talk to every NPC you can find, until 1 or 2 mention that this monster is causing trouble or that these people need help, etc. And that will unlock a new path connecting to the new area you're supposed to go. In town you also have inns to save, stores that sell you items, scrolls or accessories, a pub where you can either give ingredients to cook healing food or buy one delicacy also to heal. Some towns have warp rooms so you can easily teleport between them. You have no skill tree or equipment system here other than one accessory at a time, but this breaks so easily during battle it's very frustrating, as is the combat. Gradriel fights in hack and slash, but the controls are extremely stiff and technical, which is exactly the reason why Kamitani himself thinks the game didn't age well, and I agree. You have regular combos with the D-pad and a few unique attacks, but every action including guarding or dodging costs power, a bar that quickly goes down, and when it does, you're unable to act for a few seconds and become very vulnerable. The game's quite challenging because of most of the enemies, being random encounters believe it or not, are quite smart, especially the bosses of course, but also because you get exposed thanks to Gradriel's slow sword swinging when she's about to execute a regular combo attack. You can use items, but you have a very limited inventory, another big problem of the game, apart from being vulnerable if you want to use them in battle, as the enemy won't wait for you. Surprisingly, despite the game's age and issues, it's somehow quite addicting. You want to get good and eventually you do, but it'll take you a long time to get used to the controls. Graphics are extremely beautiful as expected, and if you're wondering about the fan service, well, it's nowhere near as scandalous as Vanillaware's games, but it does stand its own ground with some characters. Definitely give this RPG a chance and be patient with it. Trust me, it'll grow on you. Number 1. Ark the Lad, Twilight of the Spirits. Also known as Ark the Lad 4, it's part of the classic PS1 series but now on PS2 with upscale graphics on PS4, and it's the best of them all. It takes place in the same universe with 1000 years after them, so it isn't necessary to play them first. Two main characters, a human and a demon, two races that absolutely despise each other, will start an intersecting adventure. That's right, you'll play one chapter with one character, his body and his missions, and another one with the other. Very good story, powerful, deep and impactful. Graphics looked great for a 2003 game and they look much better on the PS4 re-release. The music is fantastic with some bangers worth listening to outside of the game. No, unlike most strategy RPGs though, you can explore freely in the several towns you'll visit with both parties, each with regular shops and NPCs. You do have an overworld map, but it's just that, a map to move your character from point A to point B. Ironically, you may get a random encounter every now and then. So, story mission or random encounter, you start the mission with a bunch of characters at your command. They move within limited ranged areas, not on grids, each with their own turn. You can execute regular attacks with anybody no problem, as long as the enemy or enemies are within range. But to use skills or magic, you'll need spirit stones, which can be bought in stores or found out there including maps or by defeating enemies. So combat is pretty simple but really engaging, easy to understand and get into. It's difficult but never impossible, well, at least not until the final boss. This game's incredibly overlooked even nowadays, not only because it's part of a dead franchise, but because people just don't talk about it. Play it, it's almost a masterpiece.